What's up, everybody? This is Joey Pinkney coming to you Facebook Live. Who knows how many people are going to be listening to this by the time I finish, but what I wanted to do was do a little reading. So people have been telling me to do like a reading session of The Legend of Tanisha Biggers, kind of give people a feeling of what's in the story, get a feel for who Tanisha is, and also get a feel for the mode of the story. So without further ado, I'm going to read from this. Now, keep in mind, this is not safe for work. What that means is, if this was a movie, if The Legend of Tanisha Biggers was a movie, and I'm about to read from the story, if it was a movie, it would probably, well, no, it'd be rated R. So if you're around kids that can't listen to stuff that's on the radio, if you are averse to violence and profanity, then I mean it's not real heavy, but it's it's a little bit in there. I feel like it's realistic, so it's not going to be over the top. However, if there's something that you don't approve of, this might not be the live video you need to be watching right now. But what I'm going to do is just read from it, and if anybody is here after the fact or while I'm reading, if you have any questions or anything about the story, about me or anything, feel free to drop them in there. What's up, Renee? How you doing? Good to see you. Put the questions in there, and either I'll try to answer them after I finish doing the reading selection, or I'll go back after the video is archived on Facebook, and I will go back and answer the questions. So you don't have to watch the whole thing to do that, and you don't necessarily have to watch live to actually ask questions. I'll come back periodically. But without further ado, this is Joey Pinkney reading his latest publication, The Legend of Tanisha Biggers. The chapter I'm reading from is called Teddy's Dead. I'm going to read the first two chapters, and then I'm going to let you guys take it from there, because I know that after I read these, you're going to be like, oh, I got to get this. So here we go. Chapter name is Teddy's Dead. Back to being a crab in this little bucket. I'm back, Blackhaven. Back in the hood. Tanisha Biggers said out loud after stepping off the last bus service in that area. She watched the bus pull away from the curb and headed back to the city. But not for good. Tanisha laughed at the unexpected rhyme, but her laughter was short-lived. Her body stiffened as she mentally prepared herself for the 2-mile walk to her apartment with her big leather purse and a few days' worth of groceries in plastic bags. Tanisha closed her eyes and inhaled through her nose. When her eyes opened, she stared into the distance as if she could see the village apartments, miles away through the darkness. She forced her exhale through clenched teeth and a long hiss. Okay, let's go. Tanisha had an unmistakable habit of talking to herself out loud, whether by herself or around others. Although she was walking in what would be considered a high crime zone, all Tanisha Biggers could think about was making it through the front door of her one-bedroom apartment. She trudged through a humidity that sat low in the evening's darkness. Perspiration made her bra, panties, and dress stick to her chocolatey brown... chocolate. All right, gotta stay on task. Stick to her chocolatey brown skin while it secreted sugar water for sweat. I know, that was a good line, but I digress. Let me keep on. The cumbersome bags of groceries swung to their own rhythms and shortened the normal length of Tanisha's stride. The thin plastic straps on the grocery bags dug into her fingers, past the flesh, down into the bone. Blackhaven had a grocery store 2 decades ago. The building at the bottom of the hill that bisected Blackhaven used to house that supermarket. When the grocery store closed down, the 2 convenience stores in the neighborhood filled the void by offering a very limited selection of food at much higher prices. Sound familiar? Tanisha took advantage of the grocery store near her job in the city, and she bought a lot of fresh meats, fruits, and vegetables from there. She bought snacks and other sundry items from the convenience stores in Blackhaven. I remember when Mommy used to make me carry the 2 heaviest bags, Tanisha's voice projected into the distant darkness. Tanisha got into her zone. She refocused her energy on her thoughts and escaped the pain in her hands and feet. On the left, one in the left and one in the right. As a child, Tanisha cried and even tried to stop walking when her mother Bella made her help take the groceries home. As Tanisha got older, she carried more and more of the bags. As she matured, she eventually carried all of the bags for her mother. Sorry, I didn't realize the camera was slipping down. Anybody here, can y'all hear me? All right, somebody can either do a like if you can hear me or comment. Yes, no, maybe so. All right, cool. Got a like, so that means I possibly can be heard. All right, something in the distance interrupted Tanisha's flashback. She became all eyes and ears. The jangling noise ended up being a little boy riding an old, adult-sized women's 10-speed bicycle. He rode the bike in circles in a patch of grass next to the sidewalk. She knew his face from somewhere, but she didn't know his name. When Tanisha got close enough to him, he looked at her instead of the ground in front of him. "Tanisha, that old man you hate?" He nodded for a response he never got. "He dead. Dead, dead, dead." "What?" Tanisha stopped against her better judgment. The weight of her body, her big purse and everything in it, her bags of groceries, and her clothes made her feet feel like two sizzling steaks inside of her cheap shoes. Tanisha started walking again. She took a few awkward steps to get the grocery bag swinging just right. "Who did?" Tanisha's mouth stayed open for a response she never got. The little boy rolled off. Slowly, the numbness came back in her feet and began creeping up her legs. Then the numbness gave way to a cold chill. "Teddy's dead?" All right, so that's the end of the first chapter. Yeah, so I'm going to read from the second chapter. Just making sure, if, like I said, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask a question in the chat. I'm saying in the chat. On this video, you can ask a question directly leave a comment. I'll try to answer them after I finish reading this next section. Also, I will also just come back to the video after it's archived and answer questions. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, drop a comment and I'll definitely get back to you ASAP. So I'm going to continue on reading. This is the second chapter. It's called Calm My Nerves Now. Oh yeah, chocolate. You already know. And I had to put chocolate in the book somewhere, so I had to get it for Tanisha. All right, so Tanisha finally made it home and stepped through the threshold of her sparsely furnished apartment. Goodness gracious! She dropped the groceries she had in one hand on the linoleum floor just inside of the front door. Cans and fruits rolled in different directions. She let her purse free fall from her shoulder and crash on the floor, its contents sliding out of the top of the purse onto the floor. She grunted as she turned around and bent over to reach outside of her apartment for the other bags of groceries that she put down outside to get her keys out of her purse to unlock the door. Sorry, technical difficulties. Thank you, God. Tanisha slammed the door, locked both locks, and jammed the security bar under the doorknob. She slipped out of her shoes in 2 footsteps. Next stop, the bedroom. Thank you, Nikki Mopey. Just a few steps shy of her destination, Tanisha dove chest first onto the 2 mattresses stacked on the floor. I know Vita's going to tell me about Teddy when she gets here. Tanisha inhaled deeply and exhaled a long sigh that was more of a soft moan as she sank deeper into the covers and pillows. What time is it? I got to go get some cigars from the last store. What used to be the town of Black Haven changed a lot over the past 200 or more years. During the 1800s, this self-sufficient area included huge swaths of the surrounding land. Written history about Black Haven says housing segregation led to this community's decline, but nothing could be further from the truth. Jealous people from surrounding affluent neighborhoods made it a point to infiltrate Black Haven with death and destruction, purposefully stripping the neighborhood of its history. Excuse me. Sorry, I tapped something on the screen and it took me to a whole nother place. Okay. Jealous people from surrounding affluent neighborhoods made it a point to infiltrate Black Haven with death and destruction, purposefully stripping the neighborhood of its history. I don't know why it's doing this. Sorry. Give me 1 second to get this straight. Guess I should just swipe instead of tapping. Leaders in the community, both men and women, were falsely accused and imprisoned of crimes they did not commit. Schools were rezoned, and some were outright destroyed. The future of Black Haven were bused to subpar alternatives in the name of integration, and came back home angry and confused. After 2 centuries of covert and overt invalidation, the town of Black Haven shrank into a much smaller, overpopulated neighborhood. One way in and one way out. Half of the neighborhood stayed at the top of the hill. The other half sat in the bottom. Black Havenites called the 2 areas up top or the bottom. A quarter of the residents lived up top in the village apartments. I don't know what's going on with this. Another fourth of the residents lived in the bottom in Point Breeze apartments. The remainder of the folks lived in houses scattered around the 2 apartment complexes. Everybody in the Haven called Z's In and Out the last store because it was the last store seen on the way out of that community. Zainabu was an older African Muslim who owned Z's In and Out. He owned the store almost as long as Pee Wee owned his corner store in the bottom. Before Pee Wee died, he sold Pee Wee's market to Zainabu's oldest son, Abdul. Even though Abdul changed the name of the store to Abdul's Easy Mart, Black Havenites still called the store Pee Wee's. Between the 2 stores, Zainabu and Abdul sold A to Z. They fed the neighborhood food, fuel, and every fundamental necessity in between. Back to Tanisha. Tanisha switched out of her work clothes into a tank top, shorts, and sandals and left the coolness of her apartments to go to Z's In and Out. It's getting dark quick. Let me hurry up. Tanisha looked around. Mind you, she talks to herself out loud. Tanisha looked around the nighttime scenery. She soaked in the lights and the street lights and the mosquitoes. The heat of the night surrounded her in a familiar bubble. Even though she was a certified loner, the other Black Havenites did not take away from the ambiance for Tanisha. Tanisha's sandals made slapping sounds as they smacked the back of her heels as she made her way to the last store. Hey, how y'all doing? Thank y'all for checking this out, listening and everything. I do appreciate it. Hey, Christine Pauls, I appreciate you. What's up, Nicole? It's starting to feel good out here now. 5 minutes, well, that's what she said, not me. I mean, it does feel good in here, but this is her talking about the heat and humidity and all that kind of stuff. 5 minutes into her walk to the store, she passed by a group of young men and women who were roughly Tanisha's age. A voice came out of the many murmurs. "That's fucked up what you did to Teddy." "I ain't do shit to Teddy." The words came out of Tanisha's mouth before she had time to process what was going on. Since Tanisha could not locate exactly where the accusatory voice came from, she kept walking. Over her shoulder, she said to the young man, "I don't know who you think you're talking to." A few minutes later, she made it to the same street as the last store. She could see the back of the store in the distance. She quickened her pace. Tanisha turned the corner and headed towards the store's entrance. A group of old men walked out of the store, and one of them said his goodbyes and peeled off from the group. He headed in Tanisha's direction. His pronounced limp reminded her of her deceased father. She smiled as they closed the distance between them. Tanisha inhaled to say a pleasant good evening to the old man out of respect, but the old man spoke first. "So, now you up top, trying to make it so we can't enjoy the last store either? Lil BG must have been right about you." His voice was gritty and devoid of a tone. He spoke through an almost robotic growl. "Take your ass back to the bottom." The bitterness in his jaundiced eyes matched his bark and caught Tanisha off guard. His voice squeezed out of his throat like he just lost his dog. "Excuse me?" Tanisha was shocked and did not realize she almost slowed down to a halt. I don't. The old man hobbled past her, his awkward gait fueled by his awkward gait fueled by an anger that Tanisha could not reconcile. Let me get these blunts and get back to the house. Tanisha made her way to the store. Her eyebrows spoke volumes about her demeanor. This don't make no sense. Tanisha snatched the door open and quickly walked towards the counter where Zainabu stood. An old school bell at the top of the door announced her arrival. "Oh, Miss Tanisha! Miss Tanisha!" Zainabu's voice was high-pitched, squeaky and loud. "Come, come." "Good evening, Mr. Zainabu. Let me get 3 cigars and one of them big incenses, please, and a book of matches." The look on Zainabu's face told Tanisha that she was about to get some details about Teddy. "Abdul calls me today, yes?" Zainabu took Tanisha's money and put her items in a small paper bag. "There, Miss Tanisha. And he say one of the bad men you hate so much is dead. The leader? Eddie? Who? Teddy? Yes, Teddy. Teddy. The worst one." Zainabu shook his head profusely while he handed Tanisha the paper bag. Zainabu sucked his teeth long and loudly. "He tried to touch your body, yes? Bad man, drunken fool, this Teddy." "How did he die?" "In the hospital, but..." "Come close," Zainabu whispered. "They say you made him die with demons." "What the fuck?" Tanisha's disposition went from sunny to thunder and lightning. Zainabu stood up quickly and raised his hands as a show of innocence. I don't know. Zainabu's excitement made him sound childlike before he regained his composure. I don't believe it, but I'm sorry. I don't believe it, but everyone comes in here saying you made him die. I apologize. I didn't mean to cuss at you like that. It's been a long day at work. Then I come home to this mess. Anyway, thank you for telling me, Mr. Zane. Oh, Tanisha, you remind me of my mother, beautifully brown. She smoked the hashish after a long day of taking care of each and every person in the family. From babies to old ladies, everyone in between. Zainabu chuckled a little bit as he pulled out an old picture. He stared at it and continued the conversation. The worst profanities would roll off her tongue, and you would swear you would swear they were blessings because her voice was a finely tuned musical instrument from Allah. She would walk and talk around men with no fear. You and her, same spirit, same soul. Tanisha thanked Zainabu for the kind words and walked out of the store talking to herself. The little bell at the top of the door jingled loudly. Damn! Tanisha crossed her arms over her chest and sped up. Teddy's dead for real. My thing is, why is everybody saying this because of me? Tanisha did not get far before noticing a gangly teenager leaning against a brick wall with one foot propped up. The shadows at the end of the store partially hid the teen. Tanisha uncrossed her arms just in case she needed to use her hands to defend herself. A voice came from the shadows. The fuck you doing here? Tanisha instantly recognized the voice because BG hovered around the store begging people for cigarettes or beer. BG, you know good and well I live on this side. Why are you standing in the dark? The lanky youngster pushed off the brick wall and stood in Tanisha's way. Why don't you go down to Pee-wee's? Oh, I forgot. You killed Teddy. BG waddled a little closer to Tanisha with a slow swagger and said, Lomax and Teddy go way back. Teddy was like an uncle to me. Point Breeze, the Bottom, all of us. Tanisha smelled cheap beer and cigarette butts coming off of BG. Now you walking up top like you don't care, said BG while securing a fresh cigarette wedged between a red bandana and an ear. Like you don't know, like you didn't do Lomax and his friends dirty. You lucky we don't get you for your groceries. Hold up, what? This conversation is all kinds of wrong. If you think it's this easy to confuse and bully folks up top, please holler at the next person coming out of the store because my feet hurt and I don't have time for this. Tanisha switched the small paper bag from one hand to the other. One hand gripped the bag and the other hand dangled freely. And you stink, Tanisha said. Excuse me, please. When BG did not budge, Tanisha's fingertips began to fidget. 3, 2, 1. Before BG could react, Tanisha grabbed BG's shirt and pushed the youngster back into the brick wall, to which BG replied, glurp. BG picked up the cigarette from the ground and put it back in place. Tanisha rushed down the sidewalk. She made her turn around the corner and went down the side street to her apartment complex. BG trotted past her and stood in front of her again. "You know you fucked up, right?" said BG with a grunt. "My mom, look, boy," with the paper bag in one hand. Tanisha grabbed BG's shirt with her free hand, scooped up BG with her other arm, and dumped the juvenile deeply into the bushes. "Stop playing with me." BG tried quietly to hurry out of the entanglement of vines and branches unnoticed while replacing the bandana. However, the same group of young people saw what happened after Tanisha and BG came around the corner. They all laughed at what unfolded. Half of them mocked BG. The other half mimicked Tanisha's quick move. "You made me lose my cigarette, bitch." BG's high-pitched voice, well, I guess I ain't say that in the high pitch, but BG's high-pitched voice rang over the chatter from the crowd. "I know exactly where you live. Remember that." Tanisha brushed past the crowd and did not look back until she slid the key into the locks on the door of her apartment. "Where Vita ass at?" Tanisha took one of the cigars out the bag and tossed it in the cabinet above the refrigerator. "I definitely need to calm my nerves now." So there you have it. That's the first 2 chapters of my latest publication, which is entitled The Legend of Tanisha Biggers. From that, a whole bunch of mess unfolds, and it's directly tied to the mess. Actually started earlier in the previously published short story Swiggers. So in Swiggers, Teddy was hanging out in front of Pee Wee's Market, which is the other store in this neighborhood in this story. He was hanging out in front with his friends, cracking jokes, and she happened to be, going in and out the store because she frequents that store also. And he's flirting with her. Now, from his angle, from his perspective, it's just innocent fun. From her perspective, she just don't have time for it. So that conflict set in motion this story, The Legend of Tanisha Biggers. Now, a couple things about the whole story is that The Legend of Tanisha Biggers actually fleshes out the neighborhood in which 2 people actually, the 2 previous stories are located. So Cardinal Rule and Swiggers are 2 short stories that I published in, I think, 2014 and 15. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank y'all for watching this, too. I appreciate y'all checking this out. And stemming from those 2 stories, I had to say that Teddy kind of brought me to Black Haven, but Tanisha is going to be the person or the character that's going to bring Black Haven to everybody else, or you, the reader. So that's the story. You can go to Joey's Pen, JoeysPen.com. Thanks, Black Rain. Appreciate that. You can go there, /books, joeyspen.com/books. You can see that book and the other stories. You can see the reviews and all that kind of good stuff. I need to get the excerpts up there so you can kind of like read bits and pieces of the stories. From there, you can buy The Legend of Tanisha Biggers. Right now, it's ebook only for the moment. You can get it from Kindle. You can get it on the Kobo reading platform. You can also get it for Barnes & Noble Nook. So it's on those 3 digital platforms. So check it out. Check me out. Like I said, after you watch this video, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you think this is cool, by all means, share it. And be on the lookout for more stories that's coming from this neighborhood. I might read like another section of this story. It's actually a pretty interesting story. Like the setup, it's slow to set up, but then once the action starts, and actually a little bit of action did start with BG and Tanisha. Once the action starts, it's all downhill until the end, and it's a pretty cool story. Like I said, it does have, as you saw if you watched this section, watch me read the two beginning chapters. It does have violence in it, aka fighting. It does have a little bit of cussing, and she's buying cigars not to smoke the tobacco in the cigar, so it's got a little bit of that in it too. However, those aren't the main aspects of the story. Those are actually, I'll say they're like spice. You know what I'm saying? Am I nervous? No, I'm not nervous. I probably get like nervous waves of nerves here and there, but I feel like that's natural for me in terms of doing stuff like this, because you never know if you're gonna stammer and stutter. You never know if you're gonna like read the wrong stuff. You never know what's gonna happen. Like even like while I was trying to read from the Kindle version, someplace, how like on touch screen devices, sometimes you can hold your finger close to an area and it'll just go ahead and do whatever it's supposed to do as if you touched it. So even with like little stuff like that going on, I mean that's par for the course. So all in all, no, I'm not nervous. I mean, a little bit, When will my book come to the silver screen? Very good question. Actually, I do want to see these short stories in this novelette and some of the other story ideas that I have. I do want to see them, if not long films, short films. So, but to answer your question, I don't know. Hadn't started dealing with that aspect of trying to get the movie rights sold. That's on down the road, but that's definitely something I want to look into. It's like looking into contacting a couple of production companies and seeing, pitching an idea to them, see if they're interested in it. See if I can relate the story to them in a powerful enough way where they see that this is something to go with, and this is a train to get on before it actually starts rolling. Before you can't get on it. No, I'm just joking. Always get on this train. But anyway, thank you very much for checking this out. My name is Joey Pinkney. I did read 2 sections from The Legend of Tanisha Biggers, the novelette. There's also The Legend of Tanisha Biggers, the deluxe edition, which is the anthology, which includes the 2 short stories, Cardinal Rule, Swiggers, and also The Legend of Tanisha Biggers, which is a novelette. Also, when you get these stories, they also come with author's notes. And the thing about the author notes, it kind of like breaks down some of the aspects of the story, breaks down some of my past and how it plays into what's going on. And also, it breaks down like how some of this stuff can't really all the way say randomly, but I really can't put a finger on directly where certain aspects of the story came from. Just be in the mode, just going with the flow and letting the creativity flow. So all of those things are kind of covered. Or all of those things, well, not all of them. Some of the aspects of the stories are covered in author's notes. So you get like a bonus material. The stories are layered. They're not long, so it doesn't take you forever to read them. I think that was probably maybe a fifth of the story. So there's like the story itself probably takes you about an hour to read. That was probably like about 10-15 minutes. So that's it. Like I said, do y'all have any other questions before I sign out? Nope. None. Well, once again, thank you for checking this out. This is Joey Pinkney signing out. I appreciate you. I'll probably have to do this again if I get a good enough response. Actually, I don't even need a response. I'll probably do this again anyway. I'll probably read a section of the other 2 stories, because you can always, if you hadn't read Cardinal Rule and if you hadn't read Swiggers, and you can always get the deluxe edition and save $1 at this point, and get all 3 stories and hop on in. So thank you once again. This is Joey Pinkney, and I'm signing out.